So good afternoon and welcome to our second session of the 4-H record book review. Last session, we went over the basics of project work and the beginning sheet of our record book. And today we're going to focus on this next section of our record book, which is setting our project goals and the knowledge gained. And so basically, we've already established what our main project is, and these project goals and knowledge gained should apply directly to that first initial main project area. The judges will be looking at things to make sure that they're SMART goals, and we'll go through that, and then looking at how they represent the knowledge gained. And so we'll go through that. So the first step is setting those goals, and those should reflect, again, like I said, the 4-H, the main project objective that they are reaching. So if their main project is animal science, all the goals should be tied to that animal science project. If you're doing rabbits, it should be tied to rabbits. And those goals should be SMART, what we consider SMART. That means they should be specific to the project. Think about it as the who, what, when, where. They should be measurable. We have to be able to tell if they have achieved that goal. There's got to be some component of measurability. They have to be relevant and obtainable. So they need to be something that's within the focus of a child doing it. You know, if my goal is to get to the moon, is that a very attainable goal? Probably not. But if I am going to learn the principles of aviation and rocketry, there might be something more attainable in that. Again, relevant, making sure that they're relevant to the project. Again, if I was going to the moon, if rocketry was my program or my main project, would I want to be setting one of my goals about how to bake a cake? Probably not, unless I'm flying yeast and explosions or whatnot. They also have to be timely. We have to have a time constraint in there. You know, it's not an open-ended goal, but rather something that is very measurable. Again, that ties back to that. A lot of times you'll see them also listed as actionable and realistic instead of, as we saw earlier, instead of attainable and relevant, you'll see them measured as actionable or realistic. Again, that's that relevant. Make sure your goals are relevant to that project area that you're looking at. So we're going to go through a few examples here. Oh, first of all, what are the judges looking for? When the judges are looking at the record books, they're going to be looking at two primary things. They're going to look at whether the project reflects what whether the goal reflects their project. This is a yes, no simple thing. So if all three of your goals are tied to your project work, you're going to get a very good easily. If your goals, you only have one goal, like I said, you have a cooking goal in with your other two, you'll only get a 3 because only one of those goals related to the project of rocketry. Now, I might have, learn, I'm not even thinking on the fly here, but you may have 2 related to rocketry, and then you have that one offshoot. The judges want all 3 of those there. And then they're looking at whether they meet all 5 of those SMART standards. They want to make sure, again, that they're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And so if none of the goals meet all 5, they're not going to give you, they're going to give you 1 point all the way up to if all 3 of the goals meet the 5 standards, you'll get full credit. So let's look at a few of these goals and see whether we think they meet. So complete 2 community outreach service projects by December 21st. This person's project was civic engagement. So this goal would meet that it was related to that project. Is it specific? We felt it was, they're saying they're going to do the service projects. They have a date, so we have a timely component. It's relevant to their thing, so they would have gotten full SMART goals for that. Perform 1 scene of a Shakespeare play to a group exceeding 25 people by the end of the year. Again, we have that timely component. We have a measurable goal. They want to do this to a larger group. They want 1 scene. Again, they would have gotten full credit for this one. It is also very attainable. This next one, the judges might have questioned whether or not this was actually an attainable goal, to memorize and perform an entire concerto by this 2015. This record book was a 2015 record book. I probably would have given it high marks. It is very specific. It's measurable, whether they did or did not perform it. Is it attainable? That's the question. It's relevant to their fine arts program, and it was timely. They had it within a year. The next one, to learn new recipes children will enjoy. Their program, their project was cooking, so it was relevant to their project work. But do we have any kind of time constraint on this? Not really. And any way to measure it, we have no measurability. So they would not have, this goal here would not have met the full marks and as a SMART goal. Focus on ways to reduce mud in our goat pasture to reduce foot problems. Very specific. Is it measurable? Probably not. We don't have a way. Are you going to learn how many ways? Are you going to stress how we can measure and see if they've achieved that? Relevant, very relevant to their project as a goat project. Timely, again, in how long? How long are they going to take to focus on that? Now it comes, we're going to look into the knowledge gained. For knowledge gained, we look for them to list the top 3 things that the 4-H'er has learned relevant to the project and the goals that they had established. Again, focusing on, sometimes they're not specifically reiterating their goals, but they should relate to their main project. So my first year judging record books, I always tell the story is I had a young individual, his project was cattle. He had 3 well-defined goals, but one of the things that he reflected upon was the lesson he learned was always shut the cattle gate. And so is it relevant to his project? Absolutely. Was it specific to his goal? Maybe not. He did get some credit for that, because I can see that as being a very important. Sometimes we learn lessons that are beyond our goals that are relevant to our projects. And so we want to encourage them for doing that. So when the judges, when we're looking at these, this is only going to be 4 points out of this entire record book. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at the detail provided in those lessons that they've learned. And they want to make sure that the majority of those lessons are relevant to the main project and are not just simply restated. So if we were to go back and look at to learn new recipes for children to enjoy, we don't want to see a reiteration of this for their lesson learned and have them say, I learned new recipes that children liked. That's not enough. We want to have some more depth to that. And so let's look at a few. So here are some of the sample lessons from this year's record book. And Linda, I think you might recognize one of these here. So I have a youth here who said, I have been working this year to be able to attend the White River Canoe Race, which is a 120-mile race down the White River. I have gained skills such as how to handle a paddle correctly, keeping your boat stable, and working with a partner. Again, this is a COVID year. These skills will make it possible for me to compete in the race as a kayaker in a canoe. The race was canceled due to COVID, due to the death of his father, who was the organizer of the race. Incredible detail. It showed the lessons. This young man's project was, I believe, outdoor adventure. So it tied perfectly in. This is exactly what we want to see with the lessons learned. You're not limited to just one sentences. The next sentence, I successfully provided my family with bread for a week, once a month for the entire year of 2021. This individual was, baking was her project, food and nutrition. However, is this exactly a lesson? This is more of an outcome rather than a lesson. So we're wanting to see, what did you learn about baking that bread for, yes, you did it for an entire year, but what did you learn about it? What did you learn, better ways to make your yeast work? Whatever aspects go into making that bread. The next sample, I learned that I need to spend more time developing and perfecting some classical dramatic monologues. I enjoyed comedic roles and my voice is better suited for them. So these are easier for me. I know I will do better at my college auditions if I prepare for these in advance. very strong lesson is learned here. She recognized that she needed to develop different aspects of her voice and things. And so this one would have gotten a full marks. And for the record, this is an advanced record book sample. This is a beginner record book, and this is an intermediate record book. We don't expect our beginner record books to have the language skills perhaps, but also the ability to see some of this. So that's okay. It's a learning process. And by the time they're advanced, they'll have it down pat. So let's look at some of these. This is an example from a beginner record book we had. They set 3 goals. Learn how to properly measure dry ingredients, learn how to preheat an oven, and learn how to make a 2-layer cake. We probably would not give very good marks on this because while they have 3, they would get the 3 full marks because they all pertain to this youth's cooking project. However, are they SMART goals? Not necessarily. They're not measurable. Some of them are specific. They are relevant, but is it measurable? And so we would be very dicey. We'd probably consider a lot of that. Knowledge gained. I asked an elderly lady at my school to show me how to properly measure dry ingredients. After she demonstrated, I was able to do it myself. I would give full marks on that one. She expressed everything that she did relevant to her project. Now, if I were not to see the main goals and just read, I looked up the directions in a manual, I would have no idea what she was talking about. In fact, when I pulled this, I pulled it out of context and was like, wait, what did you look up? So you need to be very specific. We want to be able to read the knowledge gained independent of looking at those goals. We will look back at it, but make sure you're specific. If she'd been a little more specific, I learned to operate my stove's preheat cycle through this, she would have gotten full marks. And then I looked up YouTube videos and learned how to layer a cake. That is describing an educational aspect, should be further down, but talk about the lessons. I learned how to properly layer a cake using some sort of methodology. Expand on the knowledge you gained, not so much what you did to gain the knowledge, but what the knowledge was. We're going to go up to a higher level here. And so this is an advanced record book that we have, and you can see it's a little better. They have their timely things. They're looking at about 6 hours a week working on showmanship skills. This is a horse project, talking about judging, things to do while judging, very specific goals. We would have liked to see a little bit more time constraints on that so we could know, and some measurable impacts, but overall, very well done. During the spring and summer, she spent the 6 hours. It's a little bit of the reiteration, but she went on to expand, how they did the knowledge gained. So she felt more confident in my skills during showmanship. So that was her knowledge gained, is working on that. Through research, she changed her grooming things. And so again, sometimes it could be borderline, but I think the judges were very pleased consistently across it that they were showing evidence of lessons learned. And so with that, if there were any questions, I will cease the recording.